Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast.
Rays Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. I'm one of your hosts, the Great L. Bushman, and alongside me, as usual, is Drew. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind, and hit that subscribe and notification bell for new episodes when they drop. Let's get right into it. I posted the other day on Instagram. Yay, we have an Instagram page now. It's at Rays Rewind Pod. You can go on Instagram and give us a follow, whatever. About what? Okay, let's go back. Shane McClanahan has been, as of right now, shut down. We don't know how long. Going to go see another specialist about the nerves in his forearm. And then the Rays will decide what to do to go from there. And I think that's the biggest news right now, because now another ace in the rotation. It seems like every single year we're dealing with an ace that's gone down with some kind of arm injury. I think now the debate is what the Rays should do with McClanahan, because now, and Drew, you can maybe disagree on me with this. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's coming back this season. I think they're going to shut him down indefinitely and then do the evaluation about what his timetable could be, because he threw off the mound the other day and then there was a setback with the nerves. I think there's more to the nerves than there is. I think there's more to this arm injury than what they're not giving us. I think they're just kind of playing it down as, oh, it's nerve damage or nerves in his forearm. I think there's more to it. But now that comes into the play of, okay, do the Rays keep going with him? Do they, have him sit out another year, depending on what this injury is? To me, and he goes onto another list of pitchers that what could have been, like the Brent Honeywells of the world. I would even say Jeremy Hellicksons of the world, like those. What's the one pitcher that could hit too? He was like
Matt. Oh, I was going to say Matt Moore, but
Matt Moore too as well. And then forget his name. He was one of the pitchers that was highly touted. He was going to come up. He could also hit too as well.
Oh, Brendan McKay.
Yeah, Brendan McKay. McClanahan to me joins that list of guys that huge pitching prospect. We saw, glimpses of him. We've had him for where we see great pitching out of them, nasty stuff, and then arm injury. Kind of the same how Glasnow was with us. Great pitcher, saw flashes, and then arm injury, constant injuries. Obviously, Glasnow went with the trade to get Pepio, but now McClanahan's now in that subject of, okay, keep him or trade him, keep him, get him healthy, and then make him be trade bait. I'm on that side, because if you keep investing into a guy that's going to be constantly getting injured, I don't see the point of it. Now, if you're going to get him healthy, he could come back and pitch his ass off, and then you could trade him to get high assets out of him. I think, and the Rays are known for doing that too. It's just sad because, this guy clearly has the stuff to be the ace of the rotation, but now it's just another setback for him. What do you think the Rays should do with him?
Yeah, so it's super disappointing to hear he shut down.
Yeah.
I think, we were, as the Rays have been making their push here the last couple of weeks with their, what was it, 15-5, 15-6 over the last, 3 weeks. It was always kind of like, all right, so now we're cooking with gas here, because we've got Kim coming up here shortly, and then, Shane's going to eventually return and give this pitching staff the ace at
Yep.
the top of the rotation. And now that that is in doubt, obviously throw some, water on the fire a little bit. And um, I, as far as if he pitches at all this year, we have no way of knowing. And you mentioned it might be more going on than just the nerve. Obviously we're not in on those conversations, so obviously we can speculate and wonder why this is taking so long when it seems like structurally they've said everything looks good.
Yep.
So I have no idea if he's going to pitch at all this year, any meaningful innings.
I think he's done. I think he's done. I think that
Yeah,
this is a
and
far more worse injury than what they're telling us. I think he's done. Unless he comes
yeah,
back in limited capacity to where you could ease him back in there and maybe have him come back late August and early September and say, okay, we'll maybe put you in it and as a
bullpen,
bullpen kind of deal. But
multi inning guy.
yeah, but if they're shutting him down for right now, where there's no kind of like, okay, we're going to shut him down. They didn't even really give a timetable of how long they're shutting him down for. They're just, hey, we're
Right.
shutting him down. He's going to go see another specialist and then we'll go from there. So there's no like timetable. Okay, we're going to shut him down for another 3 or 4 weeks and then we'll have him resume throwing. They didn't even say that. So to me, that says he's done.
Right.
But like I said, we're a couple of podcasters, so we don't know anything. So
Yeah, as far as the future for him, I I think that they would at least, there's going to be a season, if it's not this year, it's next year, where they get him back on the mound and he's pitching for the Rays. You've seen them do that with other guys. I mean, even like a guy like Nathan Eovaldi, who came in, with Tommy John surgery, recovering from that, and they waited and got him on the mound, the next year, and he pitched pretty well for them for half a season before they traded him. Jeffrey Springs, they were patient. Obviously they had signed him to that deal,
yep.
so that probably influenced it a little bit. But they got him back. He was pitching last year, and then they traded him in the offseason. So I think if he doesn't pitch at all this year, I find it hard to believe that they would. I would not expect them to say, okay, in this offseason, he's going to, obviously, you assume he'll be healthy for next year.
Yeah.
So we're going to trade him prior to that. I think that they would rather get him on the mound next year and get, something from him next season and then kind of figure out their next steps at that point. I also think one area that could impact their decision is contractually what he's making. This is the last year of that 2-year deal he signed. So I had it pulled up, and of course I think I closed it, but I think he's making 3.6
Yeah.
right now, and that was that, or 3.6, and he made that last year to avoid arbitration while he was recovering from his Tommy John, and then they did something similar with Tyler Glass now, right? They did that 2-year deal at a much higher price, but they did that kind of small multi-year deal, knowing he was rehabbing, and then they would get that season out of him. He's still got 2 more arbitration years after this, so he's not a free agent until 2028. I think that if you ask,
they won't wait. They won't wait.
No, I think if you ask Rays fans, Shane McClanahan seemed like one of those guys that would be willing to bet on himself for free agency, kind of like a David Price, right? Like, not a guy that's going to go out and probably take, a big deal, albeit at a lower price for security, like you see some of these young guys doing, but that he would rather wait till free agency. You just kind of got that vibe from him. And who knows? We don't know what those conversations were like. Maybe the Rays never really approached him at about a long-term deal. I would think that if he doesn't pitch this year, I would still think that actually the silver lining is that it maybe gives the Rays a little bit better chance of signing him to a Drew Rasmussen like deal, right? Where you've got, there's obviously risk built in with the injury history, but that when when the guy's healthy, he's able to go out there and be really effective. And so I think that if he's going into arbitration again this offseason without having pitched an inning, and it being close to 2.5 years since he took a mound in a real game, I would think that again, the Rays might have a better chance of getting something signed that would keep him here for another couple of years at a reduced rate, compared to if he had pitched this year as planned, and now we're going into arbitration, the last 2 years of arbitration with him having a full year under his belt. So my silver lining is that perhaps this could keep him here longer down the road. And I'm just looking at what Rasmussen signed. I mean, it's a 2-year deal. I mean, he's making a little less than Shane is now, but it jumps up to 5.7 next year, and then a club option for $8 million. I mean, I tell you right now, if he keeps pitching the way he's pitching, Drew Rasmussen, the Rays are picking that club option up in a couple of years.
Yeah,
if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
So I could see them maybe pulling off maybe a similar type deal with Shane. Again, it takes two to tango, but I don't know. So that's my silver lining in all this. I'm disappointed that he might not pitch this year, and I've been really looking forward to watching him pitch. But if in the long run the Rays pitching can still stay above water and pitch and be effective without him, and it increases the team's chances of keeping him here maybe a little bit longer than we would have assumed, I think in the long run it's not the worst news. And I think too, when we heard about the injury in spring training, I mean, I think everybody was worried about it being a structural issue, and then when we heard it was nerve related, I think even the best of optimists, the most optimistic people would have said it would have been great to have him back by the All-Star break. So it's not like we came into this season following the injury thinking we were going to get him.
Well, I think a lot of people are disappointed because the setbacks, because the timetable for him was, hey, we'll have him back by June, July, and now there's a setback, and now there's no timetable. And I think that's what a lot of the people are disappointed about, including myself. But like for me, I'm looking at long term, and to me, this is like a glass now situation where have him come back, pitch, have him get healthy, and then have him pitch to the maximum way to get maximum value to trade him. Because now, I mean, look at Glasnow now. Like Glasnow hasn't pitched really at all for the Dodgers. So to me, that trade that they did with the Dodgers to get Pepio is kind of a win-win for our side because Glasnow hasn't really panned out for the Dodgers. So this could be another situation where that could happen where, hey, they trade McClanahan to get the maximum value out of him, get some guys that are ready to go, and see where that happens. Because now Ras is your number one to me in the rotation. And then looking the rest of the way, like the idea of trading Littell at the trade deadline to get something out of him is kind of, to me, that's out of the window because you need Littell now. Unless you promote Boyle, because Boyle's ready to go. Unless you promote him up,
he's cruising.
So I mean, the options are there, which is because the Rays. Again, we talked about this before. The Rays have a good problem to have, which is depth. So, now looking at, but my thing is, okay, if you don't know when McClanahan's coming back, promote Boyle. It's another good arm to have in the rotation. I mean, now that puts in as a 6-man rotation, which I know the Rays will probably not want to go with. But unless you move one of the guys in the rotation now that's struggling into the bullpen and then put Boyle into the rotation.
Yeah, you probably move Shane Baz into the bullpen if you got to move anybody right now.
Yeah.
His numbers second time through, third time through are not nearly as good after those first few innings. And his slider is so bad this year that he's struggling. He doesn't really have a third pitch.
Yeah.
So he's probably the candidate. I think what would be more likely is they would just put somebody on an IL stint, Phantom IL stint to manage innings to get Boyle up, to get him a couple starts and just kind of hope, and then somewhere around the trade deadline, okay, things kind of come to a head where either you're making a move to the bullpen with a pitcher or you're putting somebody on the market for a trade, because obviously contenders, always need pitching, and, a guy like Zach Littell could be really valuable for a contender, considering his salary and the fact that I think he's a free agent at the end of this year. I mean, I feel like it's staring us in the face with him, where he seems like the most obvious pitching candidate to go.
So what they could do is move Baz to the bullpen, bring Boyle up, and then trade Littell anyways, and see what they can get.
I mean, I think it's obvious that the Rays, they do, everybody listens on everybody, and if they can get value enough value for a Littell, even though they may move a guy to a bullpen. I I think that they would do it and figure out the move like the repercussions of that after the fact. Like they would rather jump on the value that they
Yeah.
could get and then just figure it out later. So as far as Shane goes, I I really don't think they get rid of him. I know you're saying that you think he might be done in Tampa. I would be shocked if they traded him without getting him back on the mound in a Rays uniform.
Yeah.
Unless they're just convinced that like this is just not worth the hassle and they can still get some value for him with another team. I just think that there's too much meat left on the bone with him in terms of structurally, if everything's fine, if you can just get him back on the mound, you feel good about the kind of production you can get from him. And the team is needing a frontline ace, and he is that guy. So,
Well, to me, I would say, yeah, he's not gone just yet. I want him to come back, be healthy, and then pitch. And then when it comes time to maybe flip him, we do that.
yeah,
Because I'm looking at past history with Rays starting pitchers that, hey, this is the next ace of the staff. This is the next guy.
hmm
It hasn't panned out that well. Like we're not in the age of anymore where we have the big game James Shields of the world. We don't have the David Prices anymore. We don't have the Matt Garzas of the world anymore. We don't have those guys anymore because all the aces that we quote unquote were supposed to have, they've been going down with injuries.
hmm
So trying to solidify a frontline rotation where we have three aces in a row. It's now every single year it seems like, hey, we're slapping tape on a leaky ship because there's been one or two guys that goes down, and now this year it's McClanahan again. So to me, I would say have him come back, get as healthy as possible, be 110%, and then see how well he pitches. If he's back to top form, and then when it comes to the trade deadline, which it could be next year at 2026 or 2027, or maybe the offseason too, flip him and get like max value out of him. Because to me now it's look, a nerve injury is different from a shoulder or an elbow. So to me, I just say it's now. I don't want to say he's a liability, but I mean he's kind of a liability right now.
right.
So
What? And you mentioned bringing up Boyle. I mean, as far as this year, I you think ahead. Like, okay, the Rays are a wild card team right now.
yeah,
They'd be the second wild card team if the season ends today. So in a 3-game series, who are you starting in a 3-game series?
I'm going
Like,
Ras obviously game 1.
right?
Littell game 2.
Okay.
And
And
then
this is assuming Shane doesn't come back.
yeah, this is assuming Shane doesn't come back. I would go Ras game 1 and then Littell game 2. I don't know about Pepio, man. I mean Pepio maybe.
See, I go Drew for first game,
Yep.
and then Pepio, and then see I think you're going
By committee
probably.
on third game.
I think they would start Joe Boyle.
Yeah, and have him go long and then bring in the bullpen
'Cause
afterwards.
I think they.
See, I like that because you can have him go 5 or 6 and then have the bullpen come in, or have him go as long as you can.
Right. I mean, we've seen this before. They very well could think higher of Joe Boyle than some of the guys on their major league roster right now.
Yeah.
But when you've got guys on the major league team that are doing well and or average, at this point in the season, it's not worth burning Joe Boyle up in the major leagues.
Right.
To just move off of a Taj Bradley who's 24 and been decent. Like he's had some rough starts here and there, but like he's been decent. Or to move off a young Shane Baz, or Littell's given up 21 homers, which is outrageous. But like he's generally, I mean, the team had won like 6 or 7 games in a row with him, right? I mean, so I think you would run into a situation where I think they probably know Joe Boyle is a better option than some of these other guys they have in the rotation, but they're just letting it play itself out right now.
Right.
And part of that was Shane was going to factor into that equation once he got back, and obviously he was going to be. You're going to put him in there and force somebody else out, but now you're not really sure if he's going to come back. So it's going to come down to I think we could see just a Phantom IL stint from somebody. Everybody's pitched so many innings already that which is great. Like kind of a weird problem for the Rays to have, where they are going to have to start managing innings a little bit because everybody's been making. I mean, they outside of that one Joe Boyle start, every pitcher's made their start every time through the order, and that was just inserting him in as a extra pitcher. It wasn't even like somebody couldn't start. And so I think they start working Boyle in. I think obviously Ian Seymour, he's shown to be an option with how he performed in Boston. I realize it was a extra inning bullpen role, but like for him to go out and get a win in that circumstance, and especially after essentially having the game won in the 10th and Aranda booting that ball, to come back and get the win in the 11th, like showed a lot of guts. I mean, I would take that kind of guy in my rotation any day. And the Rays, I mean, again, I don't know if he ever actually pitches for the major league team, but Kyle Gibson's down there in Durham, and he's, I mean, he's not just lighting the world on fire, but he hasn't given up a hit or a run in his last two starts. He's, 9 win a third innings, 12 strikeouts.
We'll probably see him pretty soon because Rodriguez is out now. He's on the IL now for 10 days. Manny
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got a forearm strain, so who knows how long he'll be out. But so I mean, they've got options already, and
which is a good problem to have.
And the pitching has been pretty good the last several weeks, and big reason why the team's been playing so well. Outside of that weird Miami game, they've pretty much every game that they've lost has been low scoring and by 1 or 2 runs. So a lot of times it's not even really been the pitching that's been the cause of the issue or the issue for the loss. It's been the offense. So
I wanted to ask you about that. We got the trade deadline coming up next month.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do? I think they're going to do a combination of buy and sell, but the buy and sells where are they going to like buy for?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think they do need another bat in there. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, I think they're always going to buy and sell, no matter. Again, it really just depends. I mean, it's so hard to know exactly what to have an opinion, like to try to predict, because if they're in the playoff, if they're in a wild card team come trade deadline season, they're not going to get rid of Brandon Lau or Yandy or Pete Fairbanks, right? Like, if they really believe this is a playoff team, and it is a playoff team come at the end of July, and they're 4 games up in the wild card or whatever, or firmly in the wild card, the 3 wild card teams, the names that you keep hearing right now, Brandon Lau, Yandy, the guys that are veterans, Pete Fairbanks, like, I can't imagine that they would trade those guys. So then I think it becomes a situation where you're trading on the margins, and you're trading perhaps one of your pitchers, to get a Boyle up, and then you're getting a bat for a Littell, like some sort of major league bat that can maybe take the place of Christopher Morel or somebody, assuming Christopher Morel is still struggling, and like, hey, we need, or it was just tough though, because they also got, I think a lot of people kind of assume Chandler is going to be up after the trade deadline.
See, for me, I wouldn't want them to shake it up too much.
No,
only because the chemistry the team has right now is really good. So to shake it up a lot would be, I think it wouldn't help the team at all. So I think you're right. I mean, it all depends on where they're at the trade deadline. And I think they're going to be in that first or second wild card spot by the All-Star break, and then that kind of just dictates what they're going to do.
Well, I think the other question would be, like, what position are you going to add
Catcher
in the field? Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I mean, they're going to ride out Danny Jansen, of course. Assuming everybody's healthy, I think they ride out Danny Jansen. Matt Dice is a perfectly fine backup. Him taking walks enough like he does and getting a hit here and a hit there is plenty fine for me.
I heard Adley Rushman might be available at the trade deadline because they.
Yeah, I mean that would be insane. Yeah, I saw some
Yeah,
people suggesting that on the message boards.
you'd have to give up so much for that, though.
That's the Orioles would be so
Yeah,
dumb.
yeah.
So I just don't know what position you're adding because if you think about the team and what they look like at the end of July, you're gonna have catchers. You got your catching options solidified. First base, Ronda's going to be an all-star probably, and you got Yandy. Second base is Brandon Lau, and then shortstop is Ha-Sung Kim, and then you kind of have a rotation of Taylor Walls and Jose Caballero kind of intermingling there at times, right? And then you got Junior at third, and in the outfield they have they really like Mangum,
Mhm.
obviously. Josh Lowe is right there, and then in left field you kind of have, or the other outfield you have Meisner, but then you might have DeLuca come back. Palacios is rehabbing. I just, you got Chandler in the minors. Like, I don't know what major league position you're adding a player to in a trade to get in return, unless it's like a really meaningful addition. Like,
For me,
and you
for
kind of
me,
you kind of take a
it's.
big swing at something.
I would say for me, it'd have to be pitching. I think we're set on everything else because of who's coming. Like, especially with
I
Kim
think,
coming back, and then Simpson probably coming back when the rosters expand. Like,
yeah,
you won't need much position wise. I think it's more pitching that the depth needs to be there, or especially with the bullpen too.
yeah. I
It's
yeah,
just
I
with
think
the Rays. With the Rays this year, it's like there's depth. That's a good problem to have, but everybody needs to perform like everybody needs to click at the same time to like we were going on that run at home. Like that homestand
right.
we just had was fantastic, and then they fall flat in Boston, and now we got to have a 3-game set against the New York Mets, which I think we should talk about right now. So coming into the night, Rays dropping 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox in Boston. Now we're facing the New York Mets. Rays haven't been really doing well against the Mets. I'm
Hey,
a,
they swept them last year.
yeah, that's last year though. Come on, it's last
I know.
year.
That was the City Connect series too. That was like the big.
Yeah, that was the big thing because the City Connect jerseys came out.
Yeah.
I, we talked about this before, like the consistency with the team about they were kind of on a nice little run. They looked scorching hot. Now they fall flat in Boston. It's still fun to see them play, but I just hope they're not hitting one of those patches where, hey, we won a bunch of games and now we're gonna have another losing streak again,
Hmm.
where it drops us back. That's what I'm hoping. Like the Mets, and their Mets are a tough team this year.
That's the best record in baseball.
Yeah. So
And Juan Soto crushes the Rays.
yeah, that's what I'm
Crushes the
worried about.
Rays.
So does
Yeah,
Pete Alonso.
yeah, that's true.
So my confidence level going into this series is not high at all. Being fully transparent with everybody. Sorry. I mean, you can hate me all you
I
want,
think.
but I don't like this series at all.
Do you want? Okay, I think you can look at this both pessimistically and optimistically. Which side would you like me to look at first?
Pessimistic, please.
All right, pessimistic. They didn't do the little things well against the Red Sox, and that cost them.
Yeah.
They so now you're wondering, okay, can they shake that off? Because there was multiple times in both the last two games where they didn't do the little things well. In the second game, you had multiple balls dropped in the outfield that no one took charge on that directly led to runs for the Red Sox and ultimately cost them the win. Junior Caminero started struggling. I mean, I think in that series he had one hit all series. If I don't actually think he had any hits, he just had some really timely walks.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't really get much from him. So you wonder if he's cooling off. The Mets had the best record in the league with some guys that notoriously kill the Rays, and you got the bottom three of the rotation going. Rasmussen excluded, obviously. He's probably the most reliable pitcher at the moment.
Yep.
So you wonder, this looks like a series that could go really bad.
Yeah.
And then you look at worst case scenario, it's a 3-game sweep for the Mets. You're one game over 500. You're right back in that 500 quicksand where it just feels like you're stuck. And you feel like we're kind of back to square one when it started seeming like the Rays were getting out of that 500 muck and separating themselves as one of the better teams in the league. Um, and now you don't have Manny Rodriguez, one of your better relievers, going into the series.
Yep.
Optimistically, the they were in every single game in Boston. They are pitching has been pretty great, even in these losses. You think that they would still continue that in New York. Um, it's they went into the West Coast road trip a few last month,
Yep.
and in a much worse spot, and took 2 or 3 in Arizona, but then swept a Padre team at home that was banged up a little bit, but had only I think they had only lost one game at home the entire year, and they did it against two of their top 3 pitchers, Michael King and Dylan Cease, and swept them on the road in San Diego, one of the best home field advantages in all of baseball. So to me, there's no reason to think that this team, which is playing much better, can come into New York and play and win the series. I'm never going to expect a sweep, but they could win the series, especially considering they're going up against the bottom half of the Mets rotation.
Yeah, but we were going against the bottom half of the Red Sox rotation, and
Yeah, that's true.
you know
But
what I mean.
but
All right,
they were.
okay. So optimistic prediction. What do you got? You think they're going to take 2 out of 3, or 1 out of 3, or get swept?
I think realistically, it's a 1 out of 3 scenario. I would love for them to get 2 or 3. Um, but they're all right-handed pitchers, so like I'm always optimistic that they're going to come out and swing a hot bat because they got all their best hitters in the lineup. And yeah, I I mean I'm just excited to watch them. I mean I didn't come away from the Boston series feeling too down about the team. Um, that it's a tough place to play. They've had their big share of yeah. So I think optimistically I say 2 out of 3, but I think you'd be crazy to come in and expect that. So I'm just going to say 1 out of 3,
Okay.
which puts them, was that 3 games over going into the home stretch here, home series against Baltimore and Detroit, which, you expect better performance at home. So I think 1 out of 3, they can hold their heads up high.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
and
going. You're going 1 out of 3. I'll go 2 out of 3 just to be optimistic.
excuse me.
I think the series I will probably be more runs scored because of both offenses. I think you'll see a lot of high scoring in all 3 games. But I'll go 2 out of 3. If you're gonna go 1 out of 3, I'll go 2 out of 3.
I I always feel this way when they go play the bigger market teams, Boston, the Yankees especially. But with the Mets and all the pub they're getting, I think it'd be so great for this team to come in, the pitchers to come in and hold this Mets lineup to low scoring numbers. Oh, we can even if they don't win all the games, like just
play well.
it's a bigger stage. I think
Just
it's just going to put them on the map a little bit more if they come out and play well against the Mets. So that means guys like Aranda and Junior Caminero, they can have some big moments, homers, big hits, things like that. That I think
it'd be good for
their
both of them too
profile,
to perform well because that would be good for the All-Star voting too.
very much so. Hey, before we wrap up, I did want to say one thing. So I think on the last video,
Yeah.
we talked about Hassan Kim and when he comes up, what you're going to do. And I was like, oh, I think I could see Morel like,
Gone.
gone because
Okay.
Caballero can slide to the outfield. I think it's very to me now. I like the next day I was like, you know what, that was a dumb take because I thought about it a little bit more, and I think Curtis Mead. Just as a quick aside, I think
Gone.
Curtis Mead is. I think he's got an option left. He's going to go back down to Durham when Hassan Kim comes up, and I
Okay.
think the Rays are showing their hand a little bit because if you've noticed in the last week or so, Yandy has been playing first base,
Mm-hmm.
and Yandy hadn't played first base all season. And over the last few weeks, he's been sprinkled in at first. I think he's probably played there. I don't know offhand. I don't have the number in front of me, but I would say maybe 3-ish times already in the
Okay.
last few weeks. If you think of like Curtis Mead, what he does on this team right now, I know he's filled in occasionally at second or third, but he's always been the guy at first to fill in when Aranda's not playing. And typically it was against a lefty, right? So you're bringing Mead in to play first base, get him on the field. But if Kim is up, right, now you've got another right-handed bat who's absolutely going to play against lefties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Mead goes down and Mead's no longer on the roster, either now you're going to, they start Jonathan sometimes at first against a lefty. He's obviously earned that.
Yeah.
But when they don't, they no longer have a first base option. And so that leads you to have to put Yandy at first. And I think they're getting his feet wet, back a little bit on first base just to kind of get him back in that groove. Not saying he's going to be there every time against a lefty, but it at least allows you can now feel confident knowing you have that second option at first base that's playing in the field, even if it's sparingly, because a guy like Mead's not on the roster. And they just he hasn't. I mean, I know he had that like few games there where he looked okay. He had a little power going, a little slugging.
To me, it's not enough though. To me,
he hasn't done anything really.
No.
He isn't meaningful at bats. I mean, the one meaningful at bat he had, I think it was in that first game on Monday against the lefty. They pinched him for Brandon Lau, and you get it. Like these pitchers are tough, but like he struck out looking against a lefty. Like you need to hit lefties. Chris. I know Christopher Morel didn't show much in the Boston series either, but I think you have more flexibility with me going down. He's still got that option. You can just park him in Durham, and maybe he's a guy they could trade for some fringe major league talent in the trade deadline.
I don't know. I don't know if you're going to get any value out of him.
So, but I'm revising it.
Okay.
When Kim comes up, whenever that is, I think it's Mead that goes down, assuming everybody else is healthy. I think they're positioning themselves to absorb that loss with Yandy being at first every now and then, just to kind of get him back in the
swing of it.
The first baseman's mitt, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining into another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast. We want to know your thoughts about what the Rays should do about Shane McClanahan. Should they keep him, get his value in, then trade him? What are they going to do? We want to know. We want to hear from you. So go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Rays Rewind podcast. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.